13 kilometres of dirt road and we should get there. You feel you could be on the moon coming in here. I've only just arrived and I've met the two people just across there, Mike and Melinda. They're from Perth. They're here for a few days, so we'll be good friends. Well, I've arrived at CARAWINE Gorge, and I'd have to say that this is one of the most beautiful campsites that I've stayed at. So rather than one night, I'm going to stay here several nights past the school holidays, but just have a look at where I'm camped. This is my campsite right here. It's 7 o'clock in the morning and this is what I look out to from my tent, straight onto the gorge. I went for a swim yesterday. There's no crocodiles and I've met some lovely people. So I had a cup of coffee with them yesterday afternoon and they've offered me their paddleboard for a paddle up the gorge, which I'll do this afternoon hopefully and take some film of the gorge. This morning I want to gather some firewood for my fire and do some washing. That's where I'm camped. So I'm camped on the gorge. You can see my washing on the line. Just using the drift to come down and take a few photographs of this beautiful gorge. You can see the height right beside me. But I would be out back in the Pilbara paddling on a creek like this, a little bit like the Gregory. Well, I've just parked the paddleboard there to pick up these beautiful flowers here on this tree. These are white dragons. Well, this is part of CARAWINE Gorge, towards the upper end from where I'm camping. It's 10 o'clock in the morning and that's a view down towards the gorge. Very pretty. Right, well, I'm at CARAWINE Gorge and I'm sitting down here with Malcolm, and Malcolm and I met each other on a walk this morning, and as we're having a little conversation, I thought what he had to say was quite interesting. So I've asked him if he'd mind if I just interview him and ask him a couple of questions, especially about his travels. So this is my interview with Malcolm. So Malcolm, you were telling me that you've been travelling since 1996.
Yes.
And you travelled with your wife, and your wife was Alison, and my wife was Alison as well. So both have passed away.
Yeah.
And now you're travelling solo. So I'd asked you a question just before, and the question was, about your travel. I was saying, what is it that makes you want to keep travelling? Because you're travelling almost every year.
Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of travelling, and I enjoy the outback. But to start with, as I was saying, it was a dream a lot of people have of travelling around Australia to have a look, because I'm from Tasmania, and I've only been occasionally over here. And my wife wanted to come too, so we travelled Australia the first year, and then we come back the second year and came round the west. And as I was saying, the first 2 or 3 years you travel, you go and look at things. You fly in helicopters, go fishing, you look at gorges.
Exactly what I'm doing at the moment.
What you're doing now. But after that, it's the people you meet. And the people, and most of the old nomads on here have got stories to tell. As you've found out, I can talk. And we talk about places we've been to, things we've seen. And also, the other reason I travel is I've got a son in Toowoomba, a daughter in Kalgoorlie, a grandson in Darwin, and I've now got 2 great-grandsons in Cairns.
Oh.
And so 2 years ago I did the lap, and I'm doing the lap again. And that's why, and I enjoy travelling, I enjoy camping, and
Malcolm, can I ask, if it's not a rude question, but can I ask, I hope it's not a rude question, are you at liberty to say no, can I ask how old you are?
Yes, I'm going to be 82 come November.
Fantastic, fantastic. I hope I'm doing the same at 82. So, and Malcolm, you've built in you're an ex-dairy, an ex-dairy farmer.
Yes.
And you've built boats.
Yes.
And you're telling me about steel ketches that you've built.
Yeah, when I was just after I left school, I built an 8-foot dinghy, plywood dinghy, for a while, and then a bit later on I put together a mirror class sailing dinghy and learnt to sail. I went down to the ocean with a book in one hand and the boat in the other. And then I built a trailer sailor, a 16-foot trailer sailor, a bit of a kit to start with, but it was big enough to cut my family. I had 4 kids, I got a boy and 3 girls. And then later in life, a friend built a yacht, and I always had a dream of sailing, and so I got the plans of a 36-foot Roberts ketch, and I built it out of steel on the farm at home. And sailed that for 8 or 9 years, had it down south of Hobart for most of the time. And then when I became a pensioner, I couldn't afford to keep it, but I can afford to travel.
Oh, fantastic. And the way you travel, I think I told you this morning, I don't want to tow a caravan, but if I was ever going to move to a method of travel, I would pick your method of travel. You've done more than most. You've actually built your camper, which fits on top of your vehicle. Absolutely amazing. And you built it with some sort of...
It's mono panelling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a polyurethane, I think, structure, 30 mils thick, honeycomb in the middle, so it's fairly good, reasonable insulation, waterproof, and it was easy to work with.
Right.
And then because I'm into woodwork and I've got a shed at home that I can build most things in, I fitted it out. Yeah, it was just a little project that I did and enjoyed.
Malcolm, I'm really pleased I've met you, and I'm really pleased to have this conversation and to know that there's people like you on the road that's so enthusiastic about what they're doing, and just very talented also too in terms of the ability to be able to make things work for themselves.
I always say some people's brains are in their head and other people's brains are in their hands.
Right.
And
okay. Yep.
yeah, people can use their hands and for tradesmen and all that. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean you need a little bit of brain behind it, but if you're not scholastic, yeah, use your hands and you can build the world.
Malcolm, thank you very much for this
It's a
short
pleasure.
interview.
I've enjoyed the company, and that's, as I said, that's what it's about these days. It's the people you meet.
Wonderful. Thank you very much,
My
Malcolm.
pleasure.
So this is what Malcolm has built for himself, and he's called it the goat. Fantastic to think you could make that yourself. Wow. And what you can see there in terms of the table and the steps.
Oh, I'll show you the table demo.
And that's all been built with Malcolm's woodworking skills. That's great, Malcolm.